zekyo nkikubulira kikooti etteeka lijja kuyita tulina etteeka ku bitabo byaffe nti bw'osanga abakalamoja babiri bonna b'obasanze baba bagenda kubba nte oba kuva kubba nte nerikyaliwo
bw'oba olina amagezi mu mutwe etteeka lino olyokya na mugundi mu muliro nabo bwe banga bagenda ku advisinga palamenti nti etteeka bannayuganda balyagadde nabo bajja kuba basiru si kugamba nti mbavuma kujjako nga baagala kuba abasiru nze engeri gye mbirabye bateekwa ku advisinga palamenti nti ebyetteeka mukole ki muliveeko balusule mu kasero liyinza kulabika balyokye akasero oli ayinza kulondayo nze simanyi ddala ddala ekigendererwa ky'etteeka lino kubanga buli muntu yenna keba ebbanka kebaba ba economica baba baliisa kababe social teri ekirungi ekiri mu tteeka oleeta otya etteeka eritalimu ekirungi ekiririmu for ugandans oba oleeta lyaki na speed gye baliko wano bwe beeyongera tujja kusaba emmotoka
zibakone
zikone etteeka gwobadde ki lwoke riveewo mwe ababeereyo up country mutegeere wano nti ugandans abali wano mu buganda muno kumpi niya baboogereddeyo kubanga etteeka lino bwe liyitamu mwena abannayuganda mugenda kubonaabona ffe tetumanyi lwaki etteeka lino balireeta tetumanyi kubanga ne bw'oliwuliriza olaba bano bategeera oba tebategeera kubanga okusooka olaba katugambe nga amalwaliro katugambe nga badokita katugambe nga kibona sente bazijjawo ye mbuuza ne pulezidenti Museveni eza movement zino zaalya n'agaba bw'atazijjawa byonna biva bweru n'olwekyo nze simanyi kye babadde bagenderera okukola etteeka nga lino nga buli omu yenna alina amagezi alisoma alabira ddala nti oluganda lundema naye it is just killing ugandans nga banyuganda bafiire eri simanyi babe obusireevu bagamba nti bali protectinga sovereignty ey'oggwanga naye sovereignty ey'abantu yo tebagiriiko etteeka lyakutuula lyakusikwizinga lyakubonyabonya abannayuganda bonna ate kyetuva tubagambye si byapate si byaki munya-uganda. The sovereignty of Uganda was sold long ago when you engaged yourself in heavy debts which are supposed to be paid by our grandchildren, by our children. The sovereignty, you are slaves to other nations where you borrow money. Now what sovereignty are you now relating to sovereign Uganda here? Go and fight the debt and free Uganda, and the sovereignty will be there. Please don't shut up and close Ugandans. For us as Ugandans outside there, we cry and mourn for our nation. And when you came out with this bill, the hurry, Kwago called it fast tracking. Me, I'm not good in those English. I speak the local one. Me, I say the hurry, the speed with which you were running with it created an impression in our hearts that there must be ill intentions behind the bill. And that's why we all raised and said, no, enough is enough. We must talk for ourselves. We must discard the fear and come out. Because some of us, the word of God says, if the one in me is greater than the one in the world, why should I fear? Now, having said that, thanking you for allowing us to talk to you, since you are representing the whole parliament, we want to appeal to you. We want to appeal to your heart, to your emotions, to your conscience, to know that Uganda is for all Ugandans. All Ugandans. I don't want people to say the opposition said this, the other opposition. When it relates to Uganda, the law that is being made, Ugandan citizens should be central to that law. Whatever law, whatever policy, whatever things, whatever procedure, your focus should be Ugandans as human beings, not Ugandans who are in the other party or the other party. The other parties come and go. But Ugandans live. Uganda is for Ugandans. Put the central at the center of your heart as you go to make this law. Really, you are not hearing from, you all know, each of you knows what this law will make. It seems to be aimed at particular, specific individuals, but in the end, it will cover all of us. I want to pray that God may reveal himself to you, members of parliament, because we have nowhere else to go except him. That's why we are calling upon him to visit all of you in your parliament, so that he may agree with us that you reject this bill. Amen. Because there is nothing good in it as of now. Because if you were to amend it, maybe you will just erase it. And so we are praying for you. That the Lord may visit you specially to redeem Ugandans from this patronage and enslavement of Ugandans to become helpless. Chair. Thank you very much. Chair.
A country without reserves is not sovereign. The case of Uganda is that the current account balance has always been in the negative because our imports are far much greater than exports. So how do we close this? It's through financial flows. Financial flows into the financial account. And where these financial flows exceed the deficit in the current account, that's how we build reserves. Now, what is this bill doing? This bill is bringing restrictions into cross-border transactions, meaning that it is bringing restrictions on the inflows to this country. And we run a risk of reducing substantially the inflows into Uganda. And if we reduce these inflows into Uganda, it means that our current account deficit is even going to widen. And with the restrictions, there will be limited inflows in the financial account, which is going to make it very difficult for us to finance the widening current account balance. So how then does the balance of payments balance? We are going to have a substantial depreciation of the currency because you need to make imports more expensive in order to equate imports to exports. So this is the main risk of this bill. And also, it means that our capacity to build reserves, because now the flows in the financial account are reducing, we won't have an excess of financial flows in the financial account over the current account balance to build reserves.
This bill intends, for all intents and purposes, to persecute the people of Uganda. It is intended at political persecution. And so national interest, and I'm trying to infer public interest into national interest, it cannot in any way stand insofar as it promotes political persecution. And so, but also secondly, when you say what would be the role of Parliament, this protection of sovereignty bill as it is not the law envisaged under Article 8A. The law envisaged thereunder is a law that would clarify what national interest amounts to. That's not what this bill is doing. So this bill just refers to national interest, but does not even define what national interest is. So if you ask me what Article 8A, the import of that would be, because it says that Parliament, Uganda shall be governed based on principles of national interest and common good. And we all know that that's not what is happening today, both in practice and in legislation. So I think that, in fact, the enactment of this bill into law would be contrary to Article 8A that you're making reference to. I think we have a right to criticize government programs. And when I say we are in opposition, it does not mean that we are going to be opposing every single thing. But what I'm saying is that we have a right, and the people of Uganda, whether in Uganda or in the diaspora, should have a right to oppose those government policies or programs. And you know, Ugandans in the diaspora should even have a right to encourage the people of Uganda. If a person is in the diaspora and wants to communicate to the people of Uganda or mobilize them to oppose a certain policy, which they think is oppressive or repressive towards them, they must have a right to do that. And that's why we talk about alternatives, because if, for example, you talked about UPE and PDM, as an UP, we have a better understanding of how those programs would be for the benefit of the people. So it's not, we have a right to offer alternatives and definitely to oppose those things which we do not agree with. Now, someone, I think the Honorable Member also asked about paragraph 3, which begins, notwithstanding the unconstitutional nature of some of their provisions. I think you misread that paragraph, because that paragraph refers to other laws. It refers to the Anti-Money Laundering Act, the Computer Misuse, the Political Parties and Organizations Act, the Presidential Elections Act, etc. That's not a reference to this bill. That's why we say, notwithstanding the constitutional and unconstitutional nature of some of their provisions, other laws that already address the defects purportedly identified, the bill include, and we give a list thereunder. So it's not that we are conceding that there are some provisions which are constitutional. No, not at all. The Honorable Member said, Senior talked about, his question is, what if the definition of foreigner is rectified? And my submission would be that it would require the withdrawal of this bill, because the entire objectives of this bill are based on the definition as it is stated. So it would probably require you to withdraw it and redraft. If you look at, that's why in our submission begins with the objectives of this bill. We begin by opposing, because if the objective of the bill and every other provision relates to this animal called the foreigner as has been defined, then I think even if you changed, you cannot only change the definition of foreigner and retain the other provisions thereunder in their current form, because then that would defeat the definition of foreigner as it is. I hasten to add that the cardinal stated objective of this bill is to promote the sovereignty of the people of Uganda, but in fact it takes that away. This bill takes out the sovereignty of the people of Uganda in the objectives. So that's why I'm saying that the entire bill is based on this idea of the foreigner as has been currently defined. And I think if you wanted to change that definition of foreigner, it would require this bill to be withdrawn. They go back and do a good job. If they wanted to bring a law that promotes sovereignty and not tag it to what they have tagged it onto. So that's, and then you talk about constitutionality. Again, from the objectives, we are saying that right from the objectives throughout all the provisions, everything is really, really unconstitutional if you look at it. The broad, for example, Honorable, you know very well that in the Karamaji Andrew case, the Constitutional Court was very clear about provisions that are vague, that are so broad, and I think that has come through many other provisions, including the Kabaziguruka case. Now, we are saying that if you look at the several provisions of this bill, they are so broad, they are not specific. You cannot see what they are intending to address. They are trying to catch everybody and nobody. So that's why you cannot say that by changing the definition of foreigner, you would achieve constitutionality, in our humble opinion.
Zekyo kikubulira kikooti etteeka lijja kuyita tulina etteeka ku bitabo byaffe nti bw'osanga abakalamoja babiri wonna bw'obasanze baba bagenda kubba nte oba kuva kubba nte n'erikyaliwo kakati bano balina okujja bakube burashi batereze ebirumira n'etteeka lyo ligenda kuyita. Bw'olaba etteeka lino bwe liri ebintu byonna ebyogeddwako biri clear. Tewali ssente zijja mu Uganda zibagaana kujja wano, wabula kibagamba bw'ozireeta wano olina okumanya kye zinaakola. Ekonomi eno gye tutunulira n'amabanja agava ebweru gayita mu parliament ne bagateeka mu budget ne bamanya kye binaakola. tewali nsi gyotwalanga nyumba ya namwandu n'oyingiza ssente n'ozifuluma nga tebamanyi gye ziri. Etteeka lino lizzeewo kulwanyisa okujirigizibwa okuva ebweru n'okukyusa embeera zaffe. Mpa ekyokulabirako, omukwano gw'ekikukuju mu Amerika tegulina mutawaana, ne wano tulina etteeka erigugaana. Naye etteeka erigaana omukwano gw'ekikukuju tegusobola kukwata muntu ali mu Amerika oba Munnayuganda oba Omumerika ali wano asomesa abaana nti mugende maaso n'omukwano gw'ekikukuju. Kati etteeka lino bakuyise nti gwe oli foreigner oli mugwira, si kuvuma, wabula batakuyita mugwira tebasobola kukwata oba kuyita oyogere. Ekineewuunyisa nti abantu bonna abazze wano babibiina bye muyita ebyobuyambi. Abantu babawa t-shirt bo ne bavuga pajero. Kati kyebaagala okulaga sente wazireeta kuvuga pajero oba kugulira abantu t-shirt. Okumpa emmere n'endya gyevudde bweru ate n'olwanyisa UPDM oba endokwa ezinawa omuntu emmere ebbanga lyonna ng'oga nti ino gavumenti erimba ku kino temukikola ekola nsigo nfu, ate gwe n'ojja n'oga nti wandeetedde kilo 2 eza sukaali n'obuwunga. Ebyo bagezaako weematire nga Munnayuganda, onooyematire otya nga tewali mateeka.